Welcome back. Seis Vecinos is an authentic Central American and Mexican restaurant located in the heart of the South Bronx at 640 Prospect Avenue, serving bailadas, pupusas, fresh guacamole, and much, much more. It is where I met and befriended this young gentleman last spring. Why? Because he fed me. That's why. He was also part of my last year's Foodie down Bronx that took place at the Port Morris Distillery, but also happens to be one of the smartest, most thoughtful people I've met on my Instagram journey, and a shrewd businessman to boot. Please welcome Omar Canales of Seis Vecinos. Omar.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, senor, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I hope I didn't butcher that up too much.
No, you.
My nerves got the best of me, but we're finally to the part that I wanted to get to, which was the interview part. I wanted to, first of all, I really want to thank you for being part of the show.
Oh, thanks.
This really meant a lot that you're actually my first guest. Even before, we met last spring. You were part of the Foodie Down Bronx panel that I hosted with Rosanna at NYC Food News on Instagram at the Port Morris Distillery. Yes. And we spoke about this lightly, the idea that I wanted to have a platform where I could, have either a podcast or a show where I could bring on people from the Bronx food scene, talk to them about their journey in the BX on Instagram, business people like yourself. And I felt like even when I was telling you that I wanted to do this, maybe in the back of your head you were like, this guy is like completely out of his mind. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he's not that, sincere about it. But flash forward to now and we're here. So I really want to thank you for being a part of this. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
I took to you very, very quickly because yes, you did feed me number one. The food was amazing. But I do find that you are one of the most sincere people that I've met off of Instagram. We've talked about this. I've met a lot of personalities off of Instagram, a lot of people who are very, they're in one lane about what they want to do, what they want to achieve, the goals they want to achieve. And I feel like a lot of people are looking for something that serves them, something that makes them the spotlight. The attention gets focused on them. And with you, I felt like you had one agenda, which was to put Seis Vecinos on the map, to really push what that restaurant is, what it represents, and not get in the way of it. And I have to compliment you on your feed, which is amazing. I've always said that you do a really good job of showing love to your customers, showing the amazing food that you have at the restaurant, which you've actually brought some here at the studio to show off a little bit, right?
Yes.
Actually, let's start with that. What did you bring from the restaurant before we get into our interview portion?
So in total, I brought 6 pupusas. I'll go through the pupusas first. 2 loroco and queso. Loroco being a Central American flower bud, and cheese pupusa. Bean and cheese pupusas, and chicharrón and cheese pupusas.
You brought that over here?
Yes.
I can't have that, right?
Not the chicharrón,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the other ones are the vegetarian options. We can have them without cheese to make them vegan options. They're gluten-free options as well that we offer at Seis Vecinos. I also brought 2 baleadas, which consisted of eggs and avocado, the hard salty cheese, refried beans, wrapped up in a handmade flour tortilla. So once you bite into it, you have a very fluffy texture. Then another 2 baleadas, which have the same ingredients plus chorizo, which those are for those who like to completely indulge and maybe take a nice little nap after.
Right.
And we also brought some casamiento.
Yes.
Which at first glance
very good.
Seems like your classic rice and beans, which it is a very hearty staple rice and beans that we offer. But our recipe is a more Salvadoran, traditional Central American dish, keeping the whole Central American fare going. And it's just something that I welcome you also to try out and see why it's different than your more typical rice and bean.
It is. I have to say, I had never had that dish before until I went to Seis Vecinos. And on paper, it reads very similar to other dishes that I know, but the taste is like, it's unreal. It's very different from any type of like rice and beans or rice and peas dish I've had before. Really good stuff.
Yeah, it's different. The way the ingredients are all prepared. And we also brought some curtido, which you dress up the pupusas with. All we're talking about cabbage, jalapeno, carrots. We pickle them in-house. Every single day. All these ingredients take, at the least 24 hours in advance to prepare. Wow. By essentially my family, who is essentially the one that runs the establishment.
So how long has Seis Vecinos been around?
The name and the restaurant has been around for the last 7 years. We started on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, small location, no more than maybe 12 tables. Easily grew that out within 5 years, and then simultaneously then opening up the new location on 640 Prospect Avenue. And that location now has been going very strong, gets full to capacity, so we keep growing every month, every year.
Amazing. And I would assume that the Instagram has a lot to do with that.
Yes.
Your social media presence in general.
It's been growing more so because of that, and because we're living now deeper in this day and age of we're now eating through our social media, through our phones, through our devices, through our computers. And since my cousin and I, we took the initiative, the decision to take on the responsibility myself, thankfully to my tech background, I decided to invest heavily my time, almost full time, since this past November, into picking up photography skills, perfecting my Photoshop skills, learning about the ever-changing trends of social media and what works for positive exposure, organic exposure. And since then, within the last now, we're going on 7 months, 8 months, every single day we have people coming in showing, the waitresses and waiters and the managers their Instagram accounts, saying, I saw this on Facebook or Instagram, and saying, this is what I want to eat. What is it? I'm curious. And that is one of the most flattering comments when the waiters and waitresses tell me, when they see me coming in, to eat, which in my opinion, I have the most fun job when it comes to the restaurant. But they tell me, hey, Omar, we just had, 5 people, just within the hour last night, they said they wanted to try some baleadas and pupusas because they saw it on Instagram and didn't know what that was. That's awesome. They looked delicious to them.
So your wait staff is definitely grasping what's going on.
Yes.
With how the food is being presented.
So they know they also have to upkeep, that image as well. It keeps us all on check. It keeps us all in communication. And I push for that. I push, my cousin being the owner, the founder, and her business partner, I'm always pushing for that tight communication. Hey, there's 100, positive comments. There's maybe one neutral comment. Let's improve on this, keep that consistency going. And so that keeps us tightly knitted. Thankfully to, the social media aspect. That's now allowing us to directly get closer to the consumer, the customer who wants to be satisfied.
So then you undoubtedly make social media part of the communication within the team.
Yes.
When you guys talk about, let's say you have your meetings, whatnot, that is one of the things that you hit upon.
Most definitely. Definitely, yeah.
And so what is it that exactly motivates you to have such a consistently good feed? It might seem like a silly question because the motivation, of course, is to get customers in, but we've talked about this before. There's a lot of Instagram accounts out there that do not seem like they're active. They're just sort of out there. Yeah, what motivates you really to push it out there for you?
Because I do look at what other establishments are doing in the Bronx community, in New York City, throughout the country and throughout the world. They're either doing similar food to what we are or something totally different. I try to always put myself in the position, what would I like to do? What would I like to see? What would I like to eat? What would I like to consume in terms of food and media? So just constantly putting myself out there and taking myself out there instead of just thinking, oh, let me just get something done today. I want to keep the feed warm. I want to make it feel like you're there, where at the same time you can also use these images or this feed as a form of digital menu at the same time. And if you're ever willing to experience what's going on or what's happening in the moment, you can always pop into our stories as well. Which I always do my best to interact directly with the consumer and feed off of their stories. Kind of like download their stories into our feed as well. So
you do an amazing job with that. I have to say, I think that you have one of the best, when it comes to the stories content on your Instagram page, I think you have one of the best ones. It's consistently updated. It's going all the time, and you do the repost for your customers, which of course allows them to feel more comfortable putting up their own social, tagging you guys and showing their followers that they're at Seis Vecinos. I think that's an amazing, amazing thing. So I have to applaud you on that one.
No, thank you.
All right, guys. So grab yourselves a snack. Foodie Down Bronx. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Foodie Down Bronx. I'm your host, M, the Hungry Dominican, and I'm joined on set by Omar Canales of Seis Vecinos. So, Omar, we had started talking about your social media, and we started talking about your motivations, and you know, one of your or many of your goals is to, like you said, present Seis Vecinos with this beautiful digital menu, this clean, beautiful feed. How's the neighborhood reacting to the restaurant? What you have your regulars.
Yes.
I'm sure you have. What's the reception from the people who live in that neighborhood?
They welcome it, I would say, more all the time because we keep it interesting, and because we also keep it busy.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps that warm, welcoming vibe going.
Right.
And my cousin, with her efforts as well, and us always brainstorming, hey, let's try this, let's try that. We also changed, the ambiance, the decor. So we keep things like that changing.
Right.
Also, especially with our upcoming outdoor seating, that's just one more addition that we'll be featuring, which will be a first for this part of the South Bronx.
That's awesome.
So it's just constant investments of not just capital, but also ideas. And hey, let's take another chance and try this and see if it works.
Right.
And that's really the way that we try our best to keep it fresh. We like to add, for example, new weekend specials that you won't see them on the actual menu, but you'll only see them on Instagram. Hey, we have, for example, a very traditional Honduran garifuna dish called machuca. You can only get that on the weekends. And that's just a tiny example.
I think that's great. You're giving people incentive to come to the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
By offering these certain dishes at a certain time.
Yes.
And not sort of having them on the menu all the time.
Correct.
Which I think is very, very cool. So I had started the show talking about breakfast, which is something that I feel like, there's nothing revelatory about breakfast. I mean, I think people know that you should have breakfast.
Totally.
But like I had mentioned, for me, it's like breakfast was not a consistent thing for me. And so when I started applying it to my diet, it really did change everything for me. What do you find are the most sort of popular breakfast items on your menu? Or what do people, even if it's not breakfast necessarily, but what do people go for when you guys open your door up at 11 or 12 in the afternoon? What is it that people go for?
Believe it or not, I'm going to start off with the baleadas again.
Okay.
Believe it or not, we have that right at the top of our breakfast menu.
Okay.
Baleadas and pupusas. It's just very traditional Central American, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
Because it's a quick bite, very hearty, very filling, and very inexpensive.
Right.
So we have the same variety going on throughout the whole day.
Okay.
But then we also do have our rendition of huevos rancheros, for example.
Right.
We have Mexican style, and we also have Central American, Honduran style.
Can you explain the difference between how they're prepared?
The difference being, the Central American as opposed to the more Mexican style would be more of like the soft shell, like tortilla, like whole beans. And while the Central American huevos rancheros would be a red sauce, 2 over easy eggs, laid over 2 hard shell tortillas with refried beans, crema, queso, and aguacate.
Right.
Avocado.
Oh,
So
Sounds so
it's 2 variations somewhat similar, and just very filling, perfect, for the, in my opinion, hangover cure. For the early Sunday, if you can make it the early Sunday.
Which to me, it's like any food that can cure a hangover is my favorite food.
Oh yes, it's gold.
It's really good stuff. So going back to your social media page, which I really do love, what advice would you give other people when it comes to how to handle their pages?
What would you like to see? Ask yourself that question.
Right.
Take a look in the mirror, and when you look up an establishment, let's say even on Google, Maps or My Business, what do you want to see? What is it that makes you say, let's go there tonight, let's go there for lunch, let's try breakfast there,
Right.
and explore and get lost in the flavor and the cuisine. So what entices you is what I try to apply to the whole formula of the imagery of what I present, whether it's on Google Maps, Google My Business, Facebook, Instagram, and all of our social media channels that we're also
And so
featured
you
on.
make sure to update your Google listings, your Google images,
Yes.
Yelp, anything else that you feel is important. Facebook, of course, and
Yes.
Instagram.
Any medium where I feel like a customer could potentially connect to, even if we just get 5 customers a month that look at, let's say, our Foursquare page.
Yeah,
You know,
still very important to
It's
have that.
still very important just to tap into that, because you just never know someone coming from way out of town wanting to come visit, which has happened. We've gotten comments, people visiting from Texas, Massachusetts, driving in from Virginia, just coming to check out Seis Vecinos because they said, "Oh, New York City has some."
That's amazing. So you've received people that far away that actually have seen your social, and then
they say, "I'm visiting New York City. I want to make that one of my destination stops."
That's amazing.
And it's just extremely flattering. Makes it all worthwhile the effort.
Right. So really quickly before we wrap up, do you think that content is more important than engaging with your audience? So do you believe a good picture is key to having an Instagram account that is popular, or do you feel that responding and reacting to your audience is more important, or do you feel like they're both equally important?
They're both very equally important. That they go hand in hand.
Right.
They're casamiento.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly.
In my opinion, the reason it's because you
nice
need
callback to that, though.
Yeah, nice. You need to keep it warm. You need to keep it, like family. You need to keep it welcoming. So that's the only way you can do it.
Right.
And by the content that I provide, the pictures, overall from afar, they can maybe seem a little similar. But if you dig deep into every picture, you can see that they're taken at different times. They're all plates that somebody ate. These aren't dishes that were made just for a photo, They were made at the kitchen. They were moving very quickly. You've been in the kitchen. You've seen it happen
It's a
firsthand.
very active kitchen, it is.
So just keeping it very natural keeps the warmth going, the welcoming warmth that keeps, showing its effects, thankfully.
Again, I have to say, you have perhaps one of the best food accounts out there, not just in the Bronx, but on Instagram. I really do love it. You do an amazing job. And the reason I had asked you is because in reality, you just have a great balance of both. You have amazing content, amazing pictures, and you respond to your customers and your followers, which I think is key to having that inviting nature of the restaurant continue on a digital platform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because education is a big thing.
Yes.
Me coming from my IT and food, like labeling background, education is it's very effort intensive, very expensive if you want to invest into that. And educating people about the Bronx, the community, that you can find a little bit of Central America in the South Bronx and consider it your destination as something different to what else is ever being offered out there. That's the overall mission. So the education aspect is something I also truly believe in.
That's awesome.
That makes it fun.
I love that. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate it. Stay connected with Omar and Seis Vecinos on Instagram at Seis Vecinos, and visit them at 640 Prospect Avenue, Bronx, New York, 10455. Grab a snack. Foodie Down Bronx will be right back.